Hello and welcome to Gameblox. This is the Sprites as Variables tutorial, and in this tutorial we're going to learn how to set a variable as a sprite, and we will do this with a game where sprite 1 will collect coins, and when it hits a coin it will hold on to it, and then you can press the spacebar to move the coin to to drop the coin at sprite 1's current location. And so this is our setup. We have one instance of sprite 1, and we have 4 instances of coin class. In the blocks, we've used our tutorial blocks up to this point, and we've stripped them down a little bit. So we have when game starts, forever, point sprite 1 towards the mouse, and set sprite 1's speed to 100 in the pointing direction. And then I've taken all the blocks out of when sprite class 1 collides with coin class. So the first thing to do is we're going to have to select a variable. We'll initialize this global value, but we don't want a value, we want a sprite. So we'll click on value and then select sprite. And now variable 0 doesn't tell us too much about what this variable is going to hold, so I'm going to change it to picked up by typing in picked up. And in the beginning, the sprite 1 hasn't touched any coins, so we're going to have to set this value to nothing. And the easiest way to do that is click on components, and then find the null block and click the null block in. So that will set the sprite variable picked up to nothing. So we want when our UFO touches a coin, we want it to disappear, and we want this picked up variable to hold that sprite. And the easiest way to do that is we want to check if this value is still null or if it's currently a sprite. And so we will click on control, and we want an if do statement or block, and then we'll click on logic and drag out an equals, and we want to check the picked up variable, and we want to see if it's null. And the easy way to select null is to right click on it, click duplicate, and then drag this null down here. So now, only if picked up is null will Gameblox execute the code in the do area. First thing we can do is, if the UFO collides with a coin and picked up is null, then we probably want to change picked up to not be null anymore. So we'll click the set picked up to, drag it out here to the do part of the if do block, and we want to set picked up to whatever sprite we have. So we can click this picked up and click it in, and now we want to set it to the collidee, and we don't want the first collidee, we want the second collidee, the coin class. So we'll select collidee 2. So now we've changed the picked up variable to whichever coin we've hit. We also want to make that coin disappear, so we'll click on looks, and we will hide that coin. So we can do hide picked up, because now picked up equals collidee 2, or we could do collidee 2. Either one will work. Now that it's hidden, we should be able to click play, and if I hit a coin it should disappear, and then if I hit another coin it should not disappear. And that's because right now my picked up variable is storing the value of that coin. So now I need something that will drop the coin where I want it to drop, at the current location of this UFO, or sprite 1. So let's go to events, and I want when the left arrow is pressed, I'll drag it out, and I'll select when the spacebar is pressed, because that's a convenient button to press. And when the spacebar is pressed, I want it to, let's see, I'm going to have to think this out for a minute. So I want it to move the sprite to sprite 1's condition. So I'm going to move the coin to sprite 1's current. So I'm going to go to motion, and I'm going to have to drag out a move, and I have to think about this for a minute. So I'm going to move the picked up, so picked up has the collidee, and I don't want to just always set them to X and Y 100, so I'll get rid of these. And then I want some maybe motion here. Yeah, see picked up's X? I'll drag that out. But I don't want it to move it to picked up's X. I want it to move to Sprite 1's X. So what this should do is this will move that invisible coin to wherever the UFO's X is. And then I can right click on this and duplicate. And I also want to move it to where Sprite 1's Y is. So this should move that coin, which is hidden, to Sprite 1's X and Sprite 1's Y. Then I'll click on looks. I want to show that coin again. And so I want to show picked up, which is the coin that was collided with. And then I'm going to need to set the initial global sprite value of picked up back to null. So I can click on variables and I can set picked up, click on components, and drag out a null. And so let's test out and see how we do. So here's our Sprite 1, and when it hits a coin it should disappear. It does. Now if I press the space bar it should reappear. Oh, and if you see, it does reappear, but it's a little glitchy. Sometimes it just flashes and sometimes it drops. So I've got to go back and look at my code. When the spacebar is pressed, the coin definitely moves to where the UFO is. It shows up, and then I set picked up to null. I think the problem is the computer's so fast, Gameblox is now executing this code, which is saying, well, now that picked up is null, you should pick that coin right back up and hide it. So I'm thinking I'm going to have to put in a little bit of a lag. So when I drop off the coin, it'll show, and then before I set picked up to null, I'll have a little time for my sprite to move away. So I can go to control, I'll drag out a wait 1 second, and I'll put it between the show and the set. And that way the coin should show up, I should get a second to move away, and then picked up will become null, which means I can then have the program go in and pick up a new coin. So let's see how it works. Here's our UFO. I picked up the coins, no problem. I'm going to move them down to the bottom. I've dropped a coin off. Good. Now after a second, I should be able to pick another coin up. Oh, this is working. And drop it off. And then after a second, I should be able to pick another coin up. And then drop it off. And you'll see if I go too quick, I'll just bump against the coin. Let's see if we can do it. Yeah, I'm just bumping. And then after a second, it will work. So this was an introduction to using sprites as variables, and you can see that in a game you could use it to pick up and move coins. Thank you for watching.